What's up, guys? Before we kick off the video, we want to let you know that today is the day the new Mickey Spec rotor shirts go live at noon Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully by the time you guys are seeing this, it's already available and hopefully not sold out, because we only made a very small quantity of these shirts. Once they're gone, they're gone. Also, check out the site. We restocked a bunch of other items, so if you don't get a shirt, maybe you can grab something else. We love you guys' support. Thank you so much. Click the link down below. Get some.
Nice.
1992, baby.
How about that dashboard?
Automatic life. Drive. We're in the 90s, baby. Today we have a 1992 Unos Cosmo. Now, all the younger generation boys, including myself, you probably have no idea what car this is. This is a car that was only available in Japan, and this is actually my first day really ever hearing about it, let alone seeing it in person and driving one. What makes this car really special, other than the fact of that it was never in America, which is like one of the biggest selling points for every JDM fan ever, is that this has a production 3-rotor. This car only had about 3 years of production in Japan, roughly estimated to have 7,000 or 8,000 cars ever made. Now, like I said, this car does have a production 3-rotor. We have a 27-year-old car, 300 horsepower, and a 3-rotor and an automatic transmission. Let's see how she feels just to start. Dude, it's very, feels very light on his feet. Now, before really getting into it, the only thing on this car is coilovers, brakes, wheels, tires, and a V-mount setup. Other than that, it's completely stock, and it feels completely stock. This car is owned by Louis, the owner of DNA Garage. So we're sitting here with Louis in the car, and I have to have him here with us because I do not know enough information, and I'm almost learning about this car just as you guys are. I'm this lucky enough to be delivering the information. Now, before we get started, please excuse Mickey in the back cringing as the rear end is slamming with him jumping in the back. He just had to be a part of this review because as you guys know, he is going to be slapping in a motor from a Cosmo into an upcoming build, so he wanted to kind of join us along. Now, Louis, the first thing I want to ask you is, why did you get this car?
Well, since being a rotorhead, this was like the unicorn of all rotaries. So I always wanted one. It's like my dream car.
Was it hard to find?
Yeah. It took me roughly about 10 years to be able to find one that was already imported in the States.
Did you get this from California? Or so this is of recently technically legal in the United States, right?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to find one once it was in the States? Or did you find it from an importer or from a friend or Craigslist?
This was actually from one of our customers. He found it out in Virginia, purchased it, owned it for a couple months, and him knowing that I've always wanted one, he just turned around and sold it to me.
So what about it is like your favorite thing, other than it being, like you mentioned, it was the unicorn of rotaries. Yeah. What makes it the unicorn? Because I could probably guarantee you, here's an example. Here is a Honda Club RSX fanboy next to us, and he's driving next to the unicorn of rotaries and has no idea what is next to him.
Zero.
He's doing his own thing right now, doesn't give a fuck. So it's obvious that not many people know about this car. So what makes this the unicorn?
There's not another car like it. This is like the only car that has this shape, this look, and of course the 3-rotor.
So why did it die? Why is it not more popular? Why is it not more heard of? In your opinion, what happened to it?
It was more of a luxury car, and the main thing why it didn't make it to the States was because of emissions. Okay. They're really dirty engines, if you want to call it.
So this is almost like a far distant cousin of, the RX-7 lineup that Mazda had. This is a Unos, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which, as I was talking to Mickey earlier, a good example of comparison I can make is just like you have Toyota to Lexus, and as you have, what else is there?
Nissan to Infinity.
Nissan to Infinity. That's what Unos is to Mazda, but it didn't last very long. And as I said earlier, this is mainly in Japan, never came to the States. But what I'm gonna make a far off assumption here, and you can tell me if I'm right. As this car is to the RX-7 is kind of what like a Soarer is to a Supra. It's kind of like it utilizes the motor that everybody loves or loved at that time, but this was like the more luxury-based kind of marketed car. And as we can tell down here, and as I know, it only comes in automatic, so this wasn't really geared to be the enthusiast race car as the RX-7 was. It was more of the luxury style cruiser.
Exactly.
Mickey also made light to me that this car came with a lower base model, which had a 13B, rather than what we have in this car, which is the 20B. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
So people oftentimes, and what makes this kind of a unicorn in my eyes, is that you could take the 20B out of this car and put it in something else. What makes it cool is that it wasn't individually done by a shop. It was a production motor, which in my eyes adds value to a car. And I'm assuming, as you being the owner of DNA, you guys oftentimes get these 20B production motors and swap them into a lot of cars, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of swaps with these engines.
Do you have any plans to do anything interesting with this car, or do you want to keep it like completely stock for yourself?
Borderline. I mean, I would love to do a semi-P or a full P 3-rotor NA, gut it out and stuff, but it's just too nice to do it to.
I once had a Supra that I said the same thing about, and then that changed.
Exactly.
Do you ever see that mindset of yourself changing, of maybe doing something kind of cool with it, or like getting rid of this? I mean, this automatic trans, being as old as it is, my foot's to the floor. Oh, there it goes. But it's definitely... That revs out like a lot, actually. That actually took me by surprise. The automatic does feel a little bit sluggish. In my mind, I'm like, oh man, if you did like a 5-speed swap or even put something a little more newer, it'd be a blast to drive. Nothing's kind of tempted you to do anything quite yet.
Something's always up in the air, It's just one of those things where if the bug hits me, I'll do it.
Fair enough. So, you said this makes around 350 or so?
No, about 300 to the wheels.
300 to the wheels?
About the same amount of torque.
So you did the V mount up front. Does that add any power, or is that pretty much just make it a little bit better?
It usually does, but because everything else is stock, more so keeping the air temps down, which just means I can beat on it a lot longer, without putting more or damaging the engine or anything like that.
The main question that I'm kind of thinking to myself is, it being a rotary and it being a production 3-rotor, is this reliable? Did these things break down a lot? Have you had any issues?
I've owned it for 2 years already, driven it to and from Vegas 4 or 5 times during summer, 100 and plus weather. Doesn't skip a beat.
How's the gas mileage?
No, that's another thing.
I can't imagine it being good.
Oh, no. If you're beating on it, you probably get about maybe 11 to 12 miles to the gallon. If you're cruising, you're lucky to get 16, 15.
Does it have the notorious large gas tank like the RX-7?
Surprisingly, it doesn't.
Really?
Yeah. And the weird thing, or the different thing about this car is the gas tank is actually in the trunk behind the 2 seats. It's not even under the car.
Is that dangerous?
No.
Not at all?
Well, it passed Japanese, laws. California, who knows?
Oh, I'm already screwing up, trying to turn my turn signals and doing the wipers. So one of the things that's the most interesting thing about this car that Mickey will do, I'll make sure Mickey gets some good shots of it, is this 90s style dash is extremely interesting. You almost have like a cubby ledge, but the first thing that I thought of, which was really cool, is it reminded me of the new like S-Class Mercedes, where you have like the dash that sweeps all across and it's all digital. That's what this honestly looks a lot like, and reminds me a lot like being in that car and sitting in it myself. It kind of like this kind of like favors that it kind of saw a little bit of what maybe what the future was going to look like, or it definitely looks like they tried to make it look a little more futuristic. Yeah. And as we caught in the beginning of the video, when you take your keys out and you start when you start the car, the steering wheel comes forward, lifts up, and tilts back, so it makes it easier for you to get in and out of, which is always super interesting. And that's what kind of gives these cars its like personality, is those like weird quirks and stuff like that. Yeah. Are there any other little hidden things in this car that you've noticed over owning the car that it's just like you think to yourself it's cool, but it also makes you go like, why did they do that?
Well, for one is the seats themselves. If you want to get somebody in the back to actually move the seat forward, you don't have to reach over to the center controls. It actually has a control on your shoulder rest where the seat moves forward, it moves back, and then you're able to tilt it.
Who's doing that? Is that Mickey?
Mickey, yeah.
Oh, that's the controllers on
the side, yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it was super interesting. Even the controls for the front seats are literally like right at your dash. Yeah. Or normally you would have like, I don't know, other random little miscellaneous buttons. But speaking of buttons, there's not a lot of buttons really where you think there'd be. They're all kind of scattered and hidden, and kind of gives it that sleek little design that I was talking about earlier. And as we're sitting here in the sun, one of the questions that I have is, does this car have AC? Does it work?
I believe so.
You believe so?
Yeah. Last time it was still working when we got in there.
All right, 0 to 60, little turn or pull here. Its foot is to the floor, waiting for that automatic to kind of pick up and realize that we're trying to go fast here. But what's weird is waiting and waiting and waiting. I don't want to go too faster because, quite honestly, this car gets up and moves, and it's literally reminds me of the RX-7 because the gears are so long. I've yet to do a pull in these like common roads here where I can get it to shift where I want it to, which is really interesting because it feels just like you wanted to have a luxury RX-7. Like, luckily we have these big brakes on here which work very well, but like I can't get to a light, and I can't get to a light quick enough where I can get it to change up at a high gear, which kind of relates to that super long RPM pulls that all of us love with rotaries, and to see that follow through with the production 3-rotor, it's pretty cool. You can kind of relate to see where that unicorn aspect comes from, and kind of makes you wish, what if they did make something like this modern today? Which I hope you kind of do something yourself. I mean, you have the starting point. Yeah. I hope eventually you can come back and do an updated video a year or 2 years from now where we can see what you've done with it. Because the automatic is nice and it definitely sticks with that like cruiser mentality, but there's that little kid inside me that just wants to make this thing into a ripper.
Of course.
Now, Mickey mentioned to me earlier that this does rolling burnouts.
Oh yeah.
So what? You just put your foot on the brake, hold it down, and then you just
power button on. You put it in first gear. You just power brake it. Once it starts lighting them up, just good to go.
Power button. What's the power button?
It basically you go here. See how it lights up on power? It switches a little bit of the ignition timing.
It's almost like sport mode.
Exactly, sports mode. Back in the day, that was what it was.
Huh. So that being said, I think we need to find an area here where we can test the theory of the rolling burnouts.
Let's do it.
All right, so we've made it to our undisclosed location where I'm going to test the myth. Can it do burnouts? So this is my first automatic burnout. I'm going to put my left foot on the brake. I'm going to put my right foot on the gas, and I'm just going to see if it will do it, I guess. No real science behind it. Okay. Oh, there it goes. I hear it. All right. Full throttle. It's so good. It was so good. Dude, that was awesome. All right, myth confirmed. Does do burnouts, and the smell is sweet, boys. Oh my God.
Hey Louis, was that pretty good or?
Oh yeah, keep on going. Got plenty of rubber.
He said do another one.
I wanted to stop.
He said do another one. Look at the marks you left, dude.
I can't even see. All right. I can't even see. Oh, we left a little present.
Oh, just a good little Yokohama rubber there. Still smoldering. TJ, look at it, it's still smoldering.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, you come.
Oh, it's super easy. Let it build up a little bit, and then start slipping the brakes so you can do a little walking Bernie. Approved. Production 3 rotors are good. This thing is sweet. Well, boys, I think the search now begins for the UNOS Cosmo. If you want to find more information about this car, definitely hit up Louis from DNA Garage. And major thanks to Louis for letting us drive this car around a little bit and let the younger generation kind of see what it was all about. This thing is a blast. I loved it. We will see you guys in the next car review. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.